ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टवां स्वस्तनुभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति नो इन्द्रः वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। देवं नारायणं नत्वा सर्वदोषविवर्जितं परिपूर्णं गुरुंश्चान् गीतार्थं वक्ष्यामि लेशतः. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to Hindu Knowledge Academy, Gita Chinthana. We are today doing the part B of chapter 8, Akshara Brahma Yoga. On 14th of September, we spoke about 1 to 14 verses, myself and Srikant Rauji. And today it is the part B of Gita Chinthana, wherein Shushrut ji and Veena ji will take us through a few more verses. Part C will be on 12th of October. Harish ji will conclude the chapter 8, and this will be followed by an expert talk by Dr. Prathosh Prasad. I'm sure most of you would have heard of him, and we look forward to his talk. And that will be followed by introduction to chapter 9 by Harish ji, who will be leading on chapter 9. So where are we now? So in the last session, following the chapter 7, Arjuna had a Q&A session with Lord Krishna. Especially the last two verses of the 7th chapter, wherein Krishna spoke to Arjuna, Arjuna had suddenly a number of questions. So what were those questions and what would we discussed a lot about these in the last session. We'll just have a quick recap of that. So like I said, Arjuna had 8 questions to Lord Krishna and Lord Krishna answered all of them. Tad Brahma Kim, who is that Brahma? And Krishna said, Aksharam Brahma Paramam. So we spoke a lot about who is Akshara, who is that Parama Brahma, who is that Brahman. There was a lot of discussion on that, and we discussed about that supreme authority, that the supreme Lord. The second question was Adhyatmam Kim, who is Adhyatma? So the answer was Swabhavo Adhyatma Uchate. So it's all to do with the soul and the tools which are helping the soul to do its sadhana. The soul as well as the body, the mind, the conscience which help the soul. That was Adhyatma. Kim Karma. So Arjuna asked, Kim Karma? Kim, we said karma does not necessarily mean what we discussed in chapter 3, chapter 2 about Karma Yoga. This is the karma of Brahman, the divine karma. So what are the activities of that Brahman? And the answer was Bhuta Bhavod Bhavakaro Visarga Karma Sangnitaha. Again, we had a very detailed discussion upon the creation of Bhuta and Bhava. And we called it a stupendous creation, a grand creation. And then the next question was Adibhutam cha kim proktam. Who is called Adibhuta? Adibhutam ksharo bhavaha. All the 5 Panchabhutas are called Adibhutas. Adhidaivam kimuchyate. Who is Adhidaiva? Answer was Purushascha Adhidaivatam. All the Abhimani Devatas are called Adhidaiva. And especially so, Shesha and Chaturmukha Brahma. Atra dehe adhiyajnam katham. In this body of jivas, who is called Adhiyajna? Adhiyajna ahamevatra. His Krishna said, I am the only Adhiyajna, the Antaryami Rupa of Bhagavan. The one who resides in the soul is called Adhiyajna. Asmin dehe Adhiyajna kaha. Then the question was, how do you say he is the Adhyagnya in this Neha? How can you say that? Adhyagnu ahame matra dehe dehe vritam varaha. He is Adhyagnya because he is the impeller and propeller of all the activities in the body called yajnas. When we had again a lot of discussion on yajna. All these aspects will once again be explored by Veena later in this talk today. So let's look out for that. Then the eighth question was the main question which opened up the chapter 8. Prayana kalecha niyatatvibihi katham gnehasi. How is he to be known with a controlled mind and senses at the time of death? And that was the main question which started off with the chapter 8. And Arjuna asks once again, why should we remember you, Lord? Why should we remember you? For what reasons? What is the object? And how is it even possible to remember you at the time of that death, especially when death is painful? And how do we do this? So again, Lord said, Antakale cha mameva smaran bhuktva kalebaran yah prayati samadbhavam yati nastatra samshayaha. Antakale means at the time of death, at the end of life. Prayana kale also means the same. He says, if you keep remembering me even at the time of death, you will reach Madbhavam. We had a good discussion about Madbhavam. Madbhavam doesn't mean becoming one with the Lord, it means Mai Bhavam, attaining some of those attributes of the Lord. And we went into detail about what is Samipya, what is Salokya, what is Sarupya, and Sayuchya. And Srikanji told us about the story about Parikshita Maharaja listening to Sukadeva in the Bhagavatam at the time, at the last moments of his life. The Lord also said, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajantyante kalevaram tam tamai vaiti kaunteya sadatad bhava mahavita. This was one of the Hindu psychology that at the time of the death, whatever you are thinking, you may get that or you may become that. And we discussed, Srikanji discussed about Jadabharata stories, the Ajamila stories, and he gave a beautiful example of Narada asking Lord Krishna as to what is this? Why do we think of you at the time of the death? And hence Lord said, therefore at all times remember me, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu ma manusmara yuddhacha. Mayarpita manobuddhi mame vaishyasya asamshayam. If you do this at the end of your life, during the end or at the time of leaving the body, if you do that, you will definitely reach me. There is absolutely no doubt about it. And we discussed that it is not easy to remember Lord at the time of death if you have not made your full life imbibed with godly thoughts or godly works. And Lord Krishna stressed that remembering the God should become a power of habit. It should become a habit, and then it should become tadbhava, wholly permeated by the godly thoughts. Only then, once you approach, once you have aparoksha jnana, like the truly realized souls have it, once they complete their prarabdha karma, you will get the grace of that God, and that God has to assist you in remembering him at the final moment of the death. Only then we can remember God at the time of death. So it's not easy to remember the Lord and start thinking that if I remember the Lord only at the time of the death, I will reach Madhava. It is not so. It's a whole it's a process of the whole life. The whole life should become pervaded with the godly thoughts. So then this Srikanji went through the next 7 verses. How is it possible to remember the Lord at the time of death? Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayan. Abhyasa yoga. Srikanji stressed on this word abhyasa. It's not just necessarily practice or repetition, it is reiteration. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagamina. Keep your mind, buddhi, intellect, keep them away from wandering, wavering, and think of that Paramam Purusham Divyam. How to remember him? Again, we went through all these 8 attributes which is given by Lord here. Kavim, Puranam, Anushasitaram, Manor, Adiyam, Sanusmaredyaha, Sarvasya Dhataram, Achintya Rupam, Aditya Varanam, Tamasaf Parastha. So we discussed all those 8 attributes. And Srikanji also gave us some shortcuts. If you cannot remember all the 8 attributes of the Lord, just remember 2 attributes as said by our Acharya, Gunapurna and Doshadura. So those were the 2 attributes, but 8 attributes are important. Then we went through the process requirements. Process requirements for what? For the final journey. The process for yogis, the yogic process for jiva to exit the body, and the process for rest of us. So there were 2 categories here: the exit of the soul from the body for the yogis who are perfect in the yogas, and those who do not undertake all those yogic activities. So, what were the prerequisites for those yogis? Who are those yogis who can exit the body? They are called Vayujayis. This is the word which Srikanji used. Vayujayis. They are the yogis who have conquered the breath through pranayama, breathing techniques that regulate and control vital force or the prana within the body. And these yogis are also aware of those 7 chakras, the 9 gates. They are aware of Abhimani Devatas. And these are the yogis who have controlled their sense organs and focused their mind on Brahma, or Lord Almighty, the Brahmacharya, which is used in this verse 8-11. Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vivadanti, Vishanti Yad Yatayo Vitaragaha, Yadichanto Brahmacharyam Charanti, Tatte Padam Sangrahena Pravakshe. So these yogis have also relinquished all the passions such as lust and anger. So these are the prerequisites for to become a great yogi, and to do that, the most important thing is this yoga process should be Ishvara yoga, not a Nirishvara yoga. So they're always chanting, always remembering the Lord with the Akshara Om. So how do they exit the body? The yogic process for Jiva to exit the body was described in these 2 verses, 8:10 and 8:11. Prayana kale manasa achalena, with a focused mind. Bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva, with utmost devotion and yogic power. Bhruvor madhye pranam aveshya samyaka, holds the life breath in the forehead between the eyebrows, with all the gates closed. Sarvadvarani sanyamya, mediates on the divine form of the Lord. Mano hrudi nirodhyacha. He remembers the Lord as Hrudi. Hrudi does not necessarily mean the heart. Sri Kanji told us Hrudi also means that form of the Lord who is involved in dissolution of this universe during the pralaya. And then Om Ityekaksharam Brahma Vyaharan Mamanusparan Prayadi Tajan Deham Sapriyadi Paramam. With such a person who, with a great devotion to the Supreme Lord, chants the word Om, one exiting the body, will achieve the Paramam Gati, will reach his abode. That was the process of exiting the body by the yogis. Then we spoke about what if you're not a yogi, what is the pathway to moksha for rest of us? Ananyacheta satatam yomam smarati nityashaha tasyaham sulabhah partha nitya yuktasya yoginaha. Lord said, for rest of you, I am easily attainable to you. Satsyaham sulabha partha. Those who are continuously meditating on me, nitya yuktasya, with their wandering minds withdrawn from stray thoughts. So basically, here Lord Krishna is introducing the concept of bhakti, about which Veeraji will speak a lot later in this Chintana. So where are we now? This is my last slide. Where are we now? So the soul has exited the body, hopefully through the Brahmarandra, the Sahasrara, or it could have exited through any of the gates. Where does it go next? It can go to a number of lokas, Svargaloka, Mrityuloka, Pataloka, depending upon the great deeds this soul has done. But it can also go to Vaikuntha Loka. So how do we decide where this soul goes? But throughout 8th chapter, Lord Krishna has been telling us, come to my loka. Aim for Vaikuntha. He has used that word mam several times. In 8.5 he said, Mameva smaran muktva, keep remembering me. Mam anusmaran. Keep contemplating on me. Mame Vaishvasi Samshayam. Absolutely no doubt that you will come to my abode, Vaikuntha, if you keep on contemplating. Anusmaredyaha. Vyaharan mam anusmaran. So, yo mam smarati nityashaha. You can see that a number of times he has said mam. So, why is that? Why should one aim for Vaikuntha? Why not for other lokas? What is so special about Vaikuntha? Why not other lokas? To take us through this in the further verses, I invite Shushruthji, who will deal with a number of aspects of this further journey of the souls. So, Shushruthji, over to you. I'll stop.
Thank you, Anandji, for the fantastic summary. Shri Krishna Namaha, Hari Om, Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Let me start sharing slides. Are you able to see the slides?
We can, Srishant, if you could please put it on slideshow mode. Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So my namaskars to all the satsangis. I'm just a beginner, so any mistakes, please excuse me. Uh, we have seen so far that we are all trapped in this cycle of life, death, and birth again, and more life. And we have heard from Shrikant ji talk in part A how to get to moksha. So in verse 15, Sri Krishna talks about moksha. So mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam na napnuvanti mahatmanaha samsiddhim paramam gataha. So those who attain me, the great souls, are no more subject to rebirth in this world, which is moksha. And then he calls this world dukkhalayam and ashashvatam, which is full of misery, and ashashvatam, it will be destroyed. So the question arises, why do we have miseries in this world? Is the Lord not so benevolent to make everybody happy? So, uh, thinking about it, uh, we don't really enjoy pleasures unless we have been through some pain. So, if someone just gives you a glass of cold water, you won't really know the value of it. But if you have been out for a run or a long walk and you're really tired and thirsty, and then you come and you get a glass of cold water, you really enjoy it. So there is a role for some miseries so that we actually appreciate the good things in life. And Ashashvatam, we will come to the different lokas and things, but he has said that basically at some point in time, the world that you live in is going to get destroyed. So there is no doubt about that. So we talk about moksha. So what it is moksha in the first place? So I'm really thankful to Madhuji for this slide. So we have looked previously in our Chintana about various other philosophies and what moksha means to other philosophies. So for the Buddhists, it is shunyatva. There is complete annihilation of everything. There is no God. There is nothing left. For the Mayavadins, it is unity with Brahman. So you realize you yourself are Brahman, who is attributeless. So once again, there is no qualities in moksha. In Vishishtadvaita, you don't become one with Brahman, but you enjoy the bliss and no pain to the same level as Brahman himself. That is the Vishishtadvaita theory. What about Jainism? So in Jainism, there is no God. So all the jiva does in moksha is it has an upward and endless flight, which is supposed to be enjoyable. And then there are other schools of Nyaya and Vaisheshika who say that just like we said, there has to be pain to get pleasure. There is neither pain nor pleasure, so it's quite a negative experience. So what about Tattvavada? What do we believe is moksha? And I think we have covered this before. So in Tattvavada, there is an absolute distinction between the self and Brahman. So there is no chance that we can ever become Brahman. We are not in the same category and we never will be. So we cannot become Brahman. However, in moksha, there is no pain. There is a positive non-material bliss. It is nothing like the bliss that we experience in this world, and each one will experience bliss as per their individual yogyata. So if you are a small spoon, you will be full to your extent. If you are a glass, you will be filled to that extent. If you are a bucket, you will have that much sukha. So everyone will get their own fullness as per their individual capacity. So it is a positive experience. We will have intrinsic bliss, that is our own nature. There is complete self realization and self expression. So you will be the best possible you that there ever can be. And we are in synchrony with Brahman. We are not Brahman, we are in synchrony. So we are all on the same wavelength. And it is in the trans-empirical plane. So we are not in a material plane, and everybody is going to be according to their own individual swabhava. And this is brought out in the Prameya Navamalika by Vyasaraja Tirtha, where he says in the sixth tenet, Muktir Naija Sukha Anubhuti. So up to the individual. So that is an individual basis for experiencing this moksha. So coming back to verse 15, there is no rebirth, as Lord has very clearly said. Okay, so why firstly is there no rebirth? Why are we aiming to get moksha? So I will give you an analogy of doctors who generally come to the UK. They have to do a lab exam to start getting some registration with the GMC. It's a hard life. You don't have a permanent job. You move jobs every few months trying to build up your CV. And we all want this permanent job, which is the consultant job, which is nice and cushy. You have an office, you've got a secretary, you know your timetable, you know exactly what you're going to do, and life is so much easier. So we are all trying to get to this permanent job when we start. Uh, so that's what we are trying to aim for as jivas as well. Here we are wandering around. We don't know whether we will be which loka we will be born in next time, what our life will be, whether we'll be a mosquito, whether we'll be a wolf, a lion, or we'll be a human being. What we want is permanence. And that's the only way to get that is no rebirth. So in this particular verse, excuse me, the Lord says that the highest siddhi is not moksha, it's attainment of the Lord Himself. It's not just getting rid of births and death. The actual process of attaining the Lord Himself is the greatest benefit for all of us. However, there will be some souls who are Nitya Samsaris, who are engrossed in material affluence, just like some people who like locum jobs because they give you a lot of money. So you might want to keep doing these type of jobs if you are engrossed in material affluence and forget God. And you will continue to rotate in this cycle of birth and death. So just to use that example, there will be Nitya Samsarins who will not achieve moksha, who will go round and round in circles. And this is very clearly illustrated in the Brahma Sutra, the last sutra, 564, which says Anavrittit Shabdat Om, which means it is in there is no return, and this is clearly written in the scriptures, the Shabdat. Which is the Shabdat? The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which says Nacha Punararvartate, Nacha Punararvartate. So it is very clear, and the repetition stresses the fact that once you get to the Lord, there is no return. So let's move on to the next verse, verse 8:16. Brahma Bhuvana Lokaha Punaravartino Arjuna Mamupetya tu Kaunteya Punarjanma na Vidyate. So here the Lord is talking about other heavenly worlds below the worlds of Lord Brahma. So the Brahma here refers to Lord Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma. So he has very clearly said that anyone who attains other heavenly worlds below the abode of Lord Brahma will have to return to cycles of births and deaths. But those who attain my abode or Vaikuntha will be in eternal bliss, and you will be never born again. So we did have a bit of discussion on these 14 lokas in the last session. And Chaturmukha Brahma, as we know, sits on a 14-petal lotus. So the 14 petals signifying the 14 lokas, which I have listed here, starting from the very top of Satyaloka or Brahmaloka, Tapaloka, Janaloka, Maharloka, Swarloka, Bhuarloka. These are the higher worlds, and Bhuloka, where we currently are. And then the 7 lower worlds, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. So we are sitting in between. So what actually are these lokas? So there are several texts which describe these lokas, and there are in fact some texts which give details about the distances between these lokas. I have not really been able to verify this accuracy, so you're free to do your own reading on this. But all these lokas are effectively material lokas. So we are in Bhuloka or Earth as we know it, and that rotates around Swarloka or Indraloka. So that is the Earth revolving around the Sun. And obviously there is space in between the two, and that is called Bhuarloka. Similarly, our Sun is not static. The Sun rotates around the center of the Milky Way. The center of the Milky Way is called Janaloka, and the space between the Sun and the center of the Milky Way is called Maharloka. Now, the Milky Way itself is not a static entity, it revolves in a local group of galaxies called the local group. And the biggest galaxy next to ours is Andromeda galaxy. So they kind of rotate around each other, and around an imaginary space or point. So that point actually is Satyaloka, and the space between the galaxies is called Tapoloka. So you can imagine the distances involved in these different lokas. But the most important thing we have to remember is that all these lokas are material lokas, okay? Which means they are going to get destroyed. As Lord Krishna says, Ashashvatam, they are going to get destroyed. And Hinduism is not the only religion which mentions the seventh heaven. So in Christianity, there is mention of the seventh heaven, although after the third century it is less in prevalence. But I found a picture by Michelangelo Gitani, which depicts seven heavens. And certainly in Judaism, in their book called Talmud, they call the seventh heaven as the highest heaven, called Arabah. So again, please do your own reading. There is mention of higher heavens and higher realms in all religions. In Hinduism itself, we talk about sometimes three lokas. No? He is the Lord of three lokas. So where does the three lokas come from? We know there are 14. So what about three? So we know that three lokas are commonly called Bhu, Bhuva, and Swaha, which is referred to in Gayatri Mantra Vyahriti as well. And there is reference to it in Purusha Suktam. So, Nabhyad Asidantariksham, Shrishnaudyav Samavartata, Padyam Bhumi Dishashrotra, Tatha Lokagum Akalpayan. So, the three lokas are Bhu, which is the earth, and all lokas below it, Bhuar, which is Bhuar, and Swaha is all lokas above Bhuar Loka. So that is the way the three lokas are mentioned or calculated. So I hope there is no confusion about that. So what about these lower lokas then? We really don't want to go there, but we should know about them. And they are supposed to be populated by variety of asuras and nagas, and one among them is Lord Bali, who was pushed into Sutala by Lord Vamana when he put his foot on his head. So we did come across that question last time. So Sutala is said to be ruled by Lord Bali. Again, there are seven lokas which we have gone through before. So just to reiterate, all lokas are material and will be destroyed. So this picture of Lord Vishnu and the 14 lokas is to say that Lord Vishnu pervades in all the lokas. It does not mean that the lower lokas, he has abandoned those people and he is not there. He is there. He is there in every place. He is all pervasive. He is there in Satyaloka also, and he is there in Patala as well. And we have seen in Purusha Suktam, it says, Padosya Vishwa Bhutani Tripadasya Amrutam Divi. So it says that one part or one aspect of Bhagavanta is in the material plane. And all these 14 lokas are in the material plane. And then there is three other parts which are in Amrutam or non-material plane, which is Vaikuntha, Ananta Asana, and Shvetadvipa. But again, this is just a matter of contemplation because the Lord is infinite and we cannot divide infinite. So it is just for contemplation of us mere human beings to say that one aspect is here and three aspects are in the material plane. But it suffices to say that if the material plane is so vast, how vast is the non material plane? Just something to think about. If you go to Bhagavatam in Canto 2, there is mention of the different lokas arising from different parts of Bhagavanta. So, for example, from the toes of Bhagavanta is Patala, from the heel is Rasatala, from the ankle is Mahatala, and so on and so forth. So, the waist is the Bhuarloka, and the head is Satyaloka. So the picture is self-explanatory, and the reference to this is Bannanji Govindacharya's lecture on Bhagavatam. So if you're interested, you can listen to it as well. So this is again just for contemplation. We have to remember that the head of Bhagavanta is equal to the toe or the toenail of Bhagavanta. There is no difference. He is all pervasive and present in all the lokas. So we all know that if we get rid of our Linga Sharira and take a dip in Viraja Nadi, there is no rebirth. And the Lord has said that there is no return from his loka, which is Vaikuntha, Shvetadipa, and Anantasana, beyond Satyaloka. But if you read the Puranas, there is mention that if you reach the worlds of Janaloka and Maharloka and Satyaloka, you will not return to earth. So, how do we justify this? How can we say that if you reach Janaloka, there will be no rebirth? And Rayaru in Gita Vivrutti says that the Lord has a special presence in these particular worlds. Okay, so they have the Lord has special place in his heart for these worlds. Not necessarily the people who go there, but because the worlds are special, this can happen. However, Acharya settles this completely in Gita Tatparya Nirnaya. And he says that those who reside in Janaloka and above will be born again, but not in entirety. Only an amsha of them will be reborn again. For example, Bhima will as Vayu's avatar. Okay, so the Mukta Jivas who are in Janaloka are not fully born again. So the Puranas are also right, but also Lord Krishna is correct that they can be born again. Uh, so my understanding of this, reading this, is that for Manushyottamas, we really cannot get into these lokas. These lokas are divine and they are meant for devatas who can be born as amshas, whereas us human beings cannot really be born as amshas. So for us, if we have done enough punya and we get Lord's grace, we will simply bypass these lokas and go to Satya Loka. And we can go back to Journey of Souls to read about it. But even if we reach Satya Loka, there can be rebirth because if you have prarabdha karma, we have to exhaust these. So the Lord is absolutely right. Even if you reach Satya Loka, you might have to be reborn again. So to summarize, Vaikuntha and the other two divine lokas are eternal. They are infinite. And if you compare them to the 14 other lokas that we have seen, they are temporary and finite in nature. However big they may seem to us, they are still finite and they are all going to get destroyed. So, moving on to the next verse of cosmic time. सहस्रयुग पर्यंतम महर्यद ब्रह्मणो विदुः रात्रिम युग सहस्रांताम teho ratra vido janaha. Those who know the Lord's day spans over multitudes of yugas and his night also spans multitudes of yugas are the knowers of day and night. So Lord Krishna here brings on the concept of time in the cosmic scale. We are all used to time as the earth is rotating around itself and going around the sun. But this is in a completely different scale. So, what we are trying to understand here is the creation and dissolution of the universe. And symbolically, this is indicated as daytime and nighttime of the Lord. Okay, this is symbolic. It is not that the Lord has day and night, but it is for our understanding. And it mentions here Sahasra. So just like in Purusha Sukta, when it says Sahasra means multitudes, not just thousand. Rayaru says in Gita Vivruti, Sahasra Yuga here means thousands, multitudes of thousands of yugas, because no one can really count the Lord's time. So, what is a yuga? So, let's try and understand what a yuga is in the first place. So, we all know we are in Kali Yuga, and we know that Kali Yuga is 432,000 years. So, anyone wants to say what year of Kali Yuga we currently are in? Anyone? No? Okay, we'll come to that. So, after Kali Yuga is Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Satya Yuga. So, together, all of these form one Mahayuga. So, we are currently in 527th year of this Kali Yuga. So, we are just at the beginning of this particular Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga started in 3102 BC when Lord Krishna passed away or moved back to his heavenly abode. And the current year that we are in is called Vishwavasu Nama Samvatsara. So we have seen one Mahayuga, which is 43 lakh 20,000 years. And what is one Manvantara then? So 71 of these Mahayugas together form one Manvantara. So one Manvantara is a massive amount of time. So does anyone know what our current Manvantara is called?
Vaivasvata Manvantara?
Vaivasvata Manvantara, absolutely correct. And we are currently in the 28th Mahayuga. So we have a long way to go before this Manvantara finishes. So each Manvantara is headed by a Manu. So once again, a little quiz. We talked about one particular Manu in one of the Upanishads that we discussed before. So anyone remembers the name of that Manu?
Swayambhu.
Clue? Swayambhu Manu. And which Upanishad?
Ishavasya.
Yes, indeed. Correct. Absolutely correct. So we are in the 28th Mahayuga of out of 71. So we are in Vaivasvata Manvantara. And 14 such Manvantaras together will make one Kalpa. So one Kalpa is 1 day of Chaturmukha Brahma. Okay. So here we are in the 7th Manvantara out of 14, Vaivasvata Manvantara. And at the end of each Manvantara, there will be a dissolution or some sort of pralaya, which we will come to. And after 1 day of Brahma, there will be 1 night of Brahma. So day and night for Brahma are equal. And in each year of Brahma, there are 360 days and 360 nights. And his lifespan, as we know, is 100 Brahma years. Which means there are 36,000 days and 36,000 nights in Brahma's lifespan. So, what does it actually add up to? So, we know that the present Brahma is in his 51st year, that is the first day of the second half of Shveta Varaha Kalpa. The daytime is equivalent to 1,000 Mahayugas or Chaturyugas. So, this particular verse, when you say Sahasra Yuga, can mean 1,000 yugas, although it has been clarified that it actually is the Lord's yugas that we're talking about. So, by calculations, it comes that the life of Brahma is around 311 trillion human years. So, that is just simply beyond comprehension for us human beings. It's just we know it's a massive number, but we can't imagine how big. And during Brahma's day, he is busy creating life. So life only exists during Brahma's day. During night time, there is no life. It is called pralaya or sandhya. So at the end of each day, there is end of life, and towards the end of night, creation starts again. And when this present Chaturmukha Brahma finishes his 100 years, then it will be time for the Mahapralaya, and there will be a complete new cycle of creation by the Lord. So coming to Lord's time, so 311 trillion years for us is a massive amount of time. But for the Lord, Madhvacharya has said that this is simply the blink of an eyelid, Nimisha Kante. So you can imagine what the time space scales for the Lord are. If 311 trillion years is simply a blink of the eye. So when 100 years of Brahma are over, there will be a Mahapralaya or complete destruction of the universe. And at that time, it's supposed to be the Lord's night. That is just for contemplation. We have seen in creation lecture that actually creation exists for about 1/8 of the whole time, and 7/8 of time is spent in Pralaya. So in fact, you can say that the Lord's night is longer than his day, but again, that is a thing for contemplation. And during Pralaya, all that exists is Lord Krishna on the leaf which is floating on the primordial waters. So that is depicted in this picture. Let's move on to verse number 18. अव्यक्तादव्यक्तः सर्वाः प्रभवन्त्य हरागमे रात्र्यागमे प्रलीयन्ते तत्रैवाव्यक्त संयके. So we have said that during the Lord's daytime, after the great dissolution of the universe, so this is a creation is starting again, the Lord decides to undertake the creation of the universe. Okay, so during Mahapralaya, the Lord will change the visible universe into small invisible atoms or primordial matter. And during creation, these same atoms will take forms and be seen again. How does he do this? So all he has to do is to glance at Mahalakshmi. So by his mere glance, Prakriti starts unfolding herself under control of Mahalakshmi. And by this process, multiple universes are created again. So it's not just one universe happening. We know that from latest images from John Webb telescope that there are multiple universes. So multiverse is real, and that has been said already in our Vedas, and that is now being proven. So I bring your attention to the seventh stotra from Dvadasha Stotra by Sri Madhvacharya, where he mentions Vishwasthiti Pralaya Sarga. So that is the creation and destruction of the world. And he says, Yat Kataksha Balvati. So that means he's just a mere glance at Mahalakshmi that sets off this process. So he doesn't really have to take effort to do this. It's effortless for him. All it needs is a glance at Mahalakshmi and creation happens. So we will take verse 19, which is very closely related to verse 18 with in Veenaji's talk, which is going to follow mine. So we have discussed this in our creation lecture. What are the eternal entities in Vedic philosophy? So chapter 13 says Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Ubhavati. So there are two major entities, Prakriti and Purusha. So Prakriti can be Chetana Prakriti, which is Mahalakshmi, and Mula Prakriti, which is the primordial matter. And then Purusham can be Purushottama, which is the Lord, and Jivas, because even we are infinite and eternal. So all these are eternal entities. And we have gone through this slide many times before, where Mula Prakriti splits into Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, and all this is still Avyakta, which is the first word of this verse. And then it starts taking form in the form of Mahat Tattva, Ahankar Tattva, Vaikarika, Tejasa, Tamasa, then Karmendriyas, Jnanendriyas, Panchatan Matras, Panchabhutas. So we have gone through all of this. I'm not going to go through the slide. But what it is saying is that things are in primordial state or Avyakta state, which you can imagine is like sand on a beach. And then it is beginning to take shape. So someone has built a sand castle. So that is what it is. The material does not change itself. It is just that it is beginning to take some sort of shape. So if you imagine you're on a beach, what would be the chance that you would get a sand castle by chance or by wind or by water? It's pretty much impossible. It needs some sort of a sentient being to actually make a sand castle, and that is what we have to think about. So the unmanifested principle is turning into the manifested universe. So sand is turning into the sand castle. There is something called the law of conservation of mass in physics. So matter is neither created nor destroyed. And that is what we are saying, is that matter always existed. It's just beginning to take some sort of shape. And we have all heard from Einstein's famous equation on E is equal to mc squared. So a lot of energy is actually required to change into mass, and mass can change into energy. So the Lord has infinite amount of energy, and he can actually change the way the structure of the universe exists. So for our imagination, it is like there exists clay, and we as a potter are trying to make a pot. So we are trying to give this clay or mud some sort of shape. Or you can think about it like there is cotton which is growing in the fields, and someone has to make a thread from it, and then we weave the thread and we can make either jeans or a shirt or bed sheets or towels, and we give it different shapes. So the material is still the same, it's cotton, but it is taking different sorts of shapes. Similarly, we can make pots of different shapes. The mud remains the same. We have looked at this slide before as well. What is the nature of the creation? Okay, so yathor nabi srujate grunate cha. So it is like the spider web which arises from the tummy of Bhagavanta. The world or the universe spreads out, and then when he wants, he will bring it all back in. Okay, then yatha prithivya aushadheya sambhavati. So just like the seeds that are planted in the ground will spontaneously form plants and trees, the world will form. Okay, but we have to remember there is no partiality or cruelty. Okay, so if you plant a tomato plant, it will seed, it will grow into a tomato plant. If you plant a neem tree, plant seed, it will be a neem tree itself. And if you plant a mango seed, it will be a mango tree. You cannot expect a tomato to become a mango. And that is the swabhava of that particular seed. So also the jiva, it will not change. And we have to remember that it is like the hair growing on our body spontaneously. So Purusha Keshalomani. So it is a spontaneous act for Bhagavanta. All he has to do is glance at Mahalakshmi. So we have seen that in creation, the souls are released, the subtle matter is becoming gross and taking a form. Just as in Pralaya, the reverse is happening. The gross matter then starts becoming subtle. Nothing is actually destroyed, only form is lost. So this is a principle of physics called entropy, which is a measure of the order or actual disorder of the atoms in any model. And it is said that entropy always increases. So just like if you left the sand castle on the beach overnight, it is extremely likely that when you go the next day, that sandcastle would have disappeared because of the wind, because of the water. It's highly unlikely that the sandcastle would have become bigger and more towers would have attached to it. It just will not happen, because that is what entropy is. Because once it is created, it will only go back to becoming less formed, and that is pralaya. So that leads us on to pralaya. What is pralaya? What are the types of pralaya that we described? So we have all heard about ice age and the great flood. So these are the minor deluges that happen on earth, and at the end of each yuga cycle. So if you remember, that was 43 lakh years. There will be some form of destruction on earth. Okay, that is not called a pralaya as such, it is just a minor deluge. What really constitutes a pralaya is Manvantara pralaya. So if you remember, in our time cycle, at the end of each Manu's lifespan, Manvantara will end, and all the life forms on earth will get destroyed. The earth itself will not get destroyed, but all life forms get destroyed and new life will form again. Then we come to Brahma's night, that is called Dina Pralaya. So during Brahma's night, the earth also is going to get destroyed, and of course, all forms of life will get destroyed. But during the next Brahma's day, there will be some new planet where jivas will take life. Okay. And then finally, there is Mahapralaya, where everything in this universe, including Satyaloka, is going to get destroyed because it is material. All material items will get destroyed in Mahapralaya. And this is the time when the moksha yogya jivas will eventually get to Vaikuntha. And of course, there are other types of destructions which keep happening, like some major earthquakes or tsunamis, but they don't really count as pralayas. So, in summary, the material for creation never changes. It is the Panchabhutas which regularly undergo changes and creation and destruction cycles. The ones who are not eligible for moksha, unfortunately, will be trapped in this cycle of births and deaths. But if we are lucky enough to break that cycle, then hopefully we will reach the Lord one day. Thank you very much for listening. Shri Krishnarpanamastu. I will hand over now to Veena ji, who will take over from verse 19.
Thank you, Sushrutji, for laying out a crystal clear time map. I will begin with a small prayer. कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृतिस्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Offering to the feet of Narayana, in my section, I will touch upon shlokas 19, 20, 21 and 22. Friends, we have now arrived at a point in the discussion of chapter 8 wherein most important question needs to be addressed, which is, what does all this mean to me? Verses 19, 20, 21 and 22 touch upon the eternal cycle of life and death or manifestation and disappearance. The supreme possessor or controller, Brahman. What are his properties? Is he also subjected to the same cycle of creation and destruction? The abode of the supreme controller, the place one needs to get to in order to get rid of the eternal cycle of life and death. How does one get there? The practice of bhakti. Verse 19 actually sets the context for this discussion. Krishna says, Bhutagramasa evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratriagame vashaf partha prabhavatya haragame. I am Bhutagramaha, this group of movable and immovables, Sa eva, the same ones that were previously referred to as manifesting and disappearing, avashaha, are not under our control. They are born when Sri Vishnu's daytime occurs, prabhavatya haragame, and get destroyed when Vishnu's night befalls, ratri agame praliyate. The cycle keeps on repeating, bhutva bhutva. This concept is further clarified in chapter 13, verse 31, where Krishna says, Yada bhuta pruthak bhava ekasthamanupashyati tata eva cha vistaram brahma sampadyate tada. However, creation needs to be understood with the knowledge that nothing new comes into being. It is the manifestation of all that was there in different forms. Similarly, destruction means disappearance of what had come into existence. At the same time, it is extremely important for us to note that there is no guarantee that having disappeared once, we will manifest again. Even if we do, as to what form we manifest in is absolutely not in our control. Madhuji, in the last Upanishad session, reminded all of us of the verse from Chandogya Upanishad, which says, Ta iha vagrova simhova rukova varahova kitova patangova damshova mashakova yadyad bhavanti tada bhavanti. Who knows? Even if we are lucky enough to have a life on earth, we could be born as a tiger, a lion, a leopard, a boar, a bug, a firefly, a flea, or a mosquito, or any amongst the 84 lakh species. Point being, getting a human life is not easy. It is upon each individual as to what one does, having chanced upon this sadhana sharira. Well then, if we do not control our own life cycles, who does? This has been answered in the same verse when Krishna uses the term avashaha. A plus vashaha, a iti Brahma. In other words, it is Brahma who has the controls, not just of our life cycles, but as Bhagavata says, Dravyam karma cha kalascha swabhavo jiva evacha yadanugrahatas santi nasanti yad upekshaya. All the features of creation only exist as long as Brahma wills. Badarayana says in Brahma Sutra 112 that Brahma has the property of Janmadhyasya, that he is the sole controller of the eightfold dispensation: creation, sustenance, dissolution, control, knowledge, ignorance, bondage, and liberation. With this background, let's look into next verse, verse 20. Parastasmattu bhavonyah avyakto vyaktat sanatanah yassa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. Let us look at the second pada first. Yes, sir. Who is that person who is present in everything, in all articles? Sarveshu bhuteshu. And when all these articles get destroyed, nashyatsu, he does not undergo any destruction. Na vinashyati. The answer is found in the first pada. This person who is not visible, avyaktaha tu, anyaha, is different from all those groups of articles which have births and deaths. Tasma vyakta, by being supreme, paraha, and having no beginning and end, sanatanaha. Meaning that the supreme controller is the one who is immutable, does not undergo any form of destruction, wherein every other component that comes into existence undergoes some form of change or other. Krishna refers to the ever-changing aspect of his creation in chapter 15 when he compares this Srishti to Ashwatha. ऊर्ध्वमूलमधः शाखम् अश्वत्थं प्राहुरव्ययम् छन्दांसि यस्य पर्णानि यस्तं वेद स वेदवित्. That the Supreme Being has no beginning or end. Nantam na madhyam na punastavadim is how Arjuna describes Krishna on seeing his Vishwarupa form in chapter 11. The picture here depicts day and night of Brahma, who regulates creation and destruction. Is this cycle applicable to Brahma as well? The answer is no. He is Anyaha. He is both within and outside of this. He is the regulator of this cycle. The above description could also refer to Mahalakshmi, who is also referred to as Avyakta Tattva and as Kutastokshara. She shares a lot of unique properties of Vishnu. A question may arise if both Mahalakshmi and the Supreme Brahma are to be contemplated at the same level. As Madhuji often clarifies, while Mahalakshmi is on the same plane as Vishnu in the dimension of time and space, Kalataha and Deshataha, she is nowhere comparable in the dimension of attributes, Gunataha. Every single moment, she continues to learn more and more about the infinite attributes of Vishnu. Panchabheda, a foundational element of Tattvavada, lays to rest all doubts in this regard. Lakshmi's domain of action is guided by Vishnu. She is dependent only on Vishnu. She has all the knowledge except that of knowing Vishnu fully, and in that there is a sense of incompleteness when compared to Vishnu. The table on the slide depicts the other differences. Krishna uses two words in the first pada of this verse describing the attributes of Brahma, Paraha and Sanatanaha. We touched upon Paraha to declare the supremacy of Brahma. Meaning of Sanatana is explained in Moksha Dharma Parva of Mahabharata. Here, Krishna explains the etymology of many words and names of Vishnu. Krishna explains Sanatanaha as Sanadanaha, surplus Nadanaha, Nadena Tena Mahata, sounds that proclaim the Supreme, Veda Vakya. If we incorporate this meaning as well, Krishna in this verse is saying that Brahma is only the supreme controller. He is eternal. He can be known only through the Vedas, which describes his attributes. Parastasmattu bhavonyaha avyakto vyaktat sanatanaha. The greatness of Lord comes in every Upanishad, and during our Chintana here in Sahiti, Madhuji has explained and continues to do so with great care and passion. as Madhuji often keeps reminding us, it is important to revise as often as possible. So let's briefly recap some aspects of what we have already learned. Badarayana starts the Vedanta Sutras with Om Athato Brahma Jidnasa Om. Then, therefore, let the contemplation on Brahman begins. We did a wonderful series on Katha Upanishad, wherein Lord Emma, while answering questions of Nachiketa, provides an idea of the concept of God. To briefly touch upon, Yama says that even Devatas doubt about knowing the Lord fully, and for that matter, Mahalakshmi herself cannot fully comprehend all his attributes. However, Yama does give us some hope that with the right perspective and as per one's own individual abilities, we can get the idea of the concept of God. Lord is one in whom all paradoxes disappear and is known as Om and Akshara. We did a series of sessions on the meaning of Om. In the last session, Anandji thoroughly explained the meaning of word Akshara. Lord dwells in the inverted cave within our body. He is omnipresent. To be able to see him, one needs his grace and the sight of knowledge. For Arjuna to be seeing the Lord, Krishna provides the necessary sight. Divyam dadami te chakshuhu. Further, questions such as what form is he seen in, what are his characteristics, etc. are all discussed in great detail. Coming back to our verse in discussion, Krishna is saying that Brahma, the only independent being, is the one who controls all dispensations taking place. The next question that arises is, anyway, if I cannot get a fair idea of the concept of God, am fully dependent and cannot see the Lord, why should I put any effort in traversing this path? The path, which Lord Emma describes, is like walking on the edge of a sword. Krishna answers this question in the next verse. Avyaktokshara ityuktaha tamahuh paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante taddhama paramam mama. The first pada reiterates who is the controller. The entity which is invisible, avyaktaha. Vyaktaha tasmat aksharam. In Shrutis, he is referred to as Akshara. Akshara iti, and has no destruction of any kind. He is the supreme destiny. Tam paramam gatim. The second pada answers the question. Yam prapya. On reaching Krishna's abode, na nivartante. There is no return to the samsara. This entity is the supreme abode of mind, Paramam Dhama. If we need to get rid of the repeated cycles of life and death, to be relieved of the burden of enduring this samsara, we need to get to the point of exit as depicted in the picture. The only way out is to reach his abode. Krishna in chapter 15 gives us an idea of this abode when he says, it is beyond the ability of the sun, moon, or fire to illuminate, and that having reached this place, no one returns to this material world again. न तद्भासयते सूर्यः न शशाङ्को न पावकः Yadgatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. Krishna is telling us with his grace, if one reaches his abode, then there is no returning to samsara. The next question for us is, what does all this mean for me? In other words, how? How should one be doing about this? And more importantly, is the end within the realm of one's reach? However, before going deeper into this question, I would like to pause a little and do a quick recap of what we have learnt in chapter 8 thus far. Answering Arjuna's 8 questions, Krishna clearly lays out both the structural and functional components of what we experience as existence. Let us just breeze through some of the answers. An in-depth analysis of these was wonderfully dealt by Anandji in the previous session. Purusha Sukta states, what we are trying to know of is just a fraction of his glory. Brahma is the supreme controller, the immutable, all-pervading entity who manages the eightfold dispensations. Adhyatma refers to the existence of the self in this manifestation. With the necessary material resources provided by the Lord based on one's swabhava, inherent nature, karma, actions, and prayatna, effort. Karma refers to the eightfold dispensations of the Lord. Adhibhuta refers to the basic building blocks of this existence, the Panchabhutas. Bhuti also means the one which is capable of evolution, and this encompasses all living beings. Adhidaiva refers to the entire family of the Lord. It means all the devatas who follow his instructions and take part in the execution of the eightfold dispensation. Adhiyajna refers to Krishna himself as the enjoyer of all sacrifices and austerities, a true and selfless friend without an iota of partiality or cruelty. Also, Adhiyajna, as he is the chief prompter of all the yajnas one performs. Yajna, as we all know, refers to Deva Puja, Sangati Karana, and Dana. We are right now doing a Sangati Karana Yajna here. Krishna in chapter 4 states that almost all our actions, if performed right, can qualify as yajna, including the war that Arjuna is to fight. Jagannatha Dasaru captures this whole aspect of how to transform one's actions into yajna in the following verse from Vibhuti Sandhi of his grand composition, the Harikatha Sara. Now I request Kusumji to recite this verse for us.
Thank you, Veenaji. ಗೋಳಕವೆ ಕುಂಡಾಗ್ನಿಕರಣವು ಮೇಲೊದಗಿಬಹ ವಿಷಯ ಸಮಿಧೆಯು ಗಾಳಿ ಯತ್ನವು ಕಾಮ ಧೂಮವು ಸನ್ನಿಧಾನಾರ್ಚಿ ಮೇಳನವೇ ಪ್ರಜ್ವಾಲೆ ಕಿಡಿಗಳು ತೂಳಿದಾನಂದಗಳೇ ತತ್ಕಾಲ ಮಾತುಗಳೆಲ್ಲ ಮಂತ್ರ ಅಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮ ಯಜ್ಞವಿದು.
The physical body, where the sense organs are present, is the sacrificial place. The sense organs are the fire. Objects that interact with the sense organs are the wood pieces, samidhi. Effort to interact with the sense objects is the wind. Desires of sense objects is the smoke. Contact with the sense objects through sense organs is the flame. Interaction of the sense organs and sense object is the rousing flame. Sparks are the emanating feelings of joy. Words spoken in this instance are the mantras. This mode of contemplation directed towards the surrender of oneself to Vishnu is Adhyatma Yajna. Performance of each and every activity with this kind of an approach and contemplation will enable the transformation of mere activities into a yajna. Continuing to answer Arjuna's questions, Krishna states that contemplation of the Lord at the time of final departure is the way to qualify for the no return ticket out of this samsara. And he does provide an 8-point checklist as a quick guide for this contemplation. Shrikantji led a great discussion on this topic in the previous session. Sushruji has very clearly laid out the concept of time and its relativeness. So, here we are in this grand scheme of things. But what does this mean to me? Where am I located within this framework and which direction should I proceed? What are my GPS coordinates? The answer is pretty simple and all of us, I'm sure, are aware of the same. This is what we say during Sankalpa whenever any form of worship of the Lord is to be done. Let us first look at the time coordinates. Adya Brahmanaha, the first one to be created in this cycle, the current Chaturmukha Brahma. Dvitiya Parardhe, the second half of his tenure. Sri Shweta Varaha Kalpe, the Kalpa in which Lord appeared in the form of Varaha. Vaivasvata Manvantare, seventh Manvantara, known as Vaivasvata Manvantara. Astavimshati Kaliyuge, the 28th Kaliyuga of the 7th Manvantara. Prathama Pade, the first half of the 28th Kaliyuga. Shali Vahana Shake, the calendar commemorating the establishment of Saka era in 78 AD. Buddhavatare, the yuga in which Buddhavatara took place. Now, looking at the space coordinates. Bhuloke, the space where sadhana takes place. Jambudvipe, Jambu is the largest of the 7 continents. In the US, I understand that it is Krauncha Dvipe. Bharata Varsha, Bharata as in Puranic times, encompassing Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, Tibet, Bhutan, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos. Bharata Khande, Bharata as of today. Dandakaranye, the Deccan Plateau. Godavaryaha Dakshina Tire, south of river Godavari. In the UK, Thames Tire perhaps. Ramakshetre, east of Western Ghats. Karnataka Mandalantargate, the state of Karnataka. Bengaluru Nagare, the city of Bangalore. Dakshina Digbhage, southern part of Bangalore city. We then relate to our immediate time coordinates in terms of the year, season, month, cycle of the moon, the day post the full or new moon, day of the week, and relevant stars. Asmin Vartamane Chandramanena विश्वावसु नाम संवत्सरे दक्षिणायणे शरदृतौ आश्विनमासे शुक्लपक्षे त्रयोदशतिथौ रविवासरयुक्तानां शतभिषा नक्षत्रे गण्डयोगे तैतिलकरणे. Next comes our own attribute coordinates in terms of one's gotra, shakha, name. Shubha Rashi Sthite Satsu Evam Grahaguna Visheshana Vishishtayam Shubha Punyatithau Shubha Gotrotpannasya Shubha Nama Sharmanaha Sa Parivarasya, followed by our list of asks like Kshema, Sthairya, Ayushya, Arogya, etc. etc. Now that we have identified ourselves along with our current time and space coordinates, it is time to dwell upon what should one be doing. Question being, how do we reach that abode wherein the concept of day and night ceases to exist? So does that of joy and sorrow, gain and loss, or any other contradictory states of existence, where only pure joy of knowledge exists. Knowledge undoubtedly becomes the key. However, is this alone sufficient? Let us see what Krishna has to say. Purushassa parah partha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya yasyantasthani bhutani ena sarvamidam tatam. Partha, Arjuna, the one that has crossed the ocean of ignorance, aparoksha jnani. Bhutani, all creatures, yasyantasthani, are residing in Brahma, and sarvam idam, the entire creation, is pervaded tatam by the Supreme Purusha, Purushottama, Purushassa Paraha, who labhyaha is within the realm of one's reach. Only through bhakti, bhaktya tu, and not by any other means, ananyaya. Krishna is telling, yes, reaching my abode is within the realm of one's reach. And as you know, Arjuna, the knowledgeable one, it is only through bhakti and not by any other means. There is one other purpose that this verse serves too. Previously in verse 10, it was stated, Bhaktya yukto loga balena chaiva. Bhakti here is contemplated alongside other means, the power of yoga. A question may arise as to if both bhakti and yoga are to be thought of in the same plane. Krishna clarifies this to state that bhakti is indispensable irrespective of what other works are being done. While other means are necessary, sufficiency is only provided by bhakti. But for bhakti, all other means would remain insufficient. Having put so much of emphasis on bhakti, it would only be right that we spend a couple of minutes to remind ourselves of what bhakti is and what are the various ways in which this can be practiced. Chapter 11 again re-emphasizes the centrality of bhakti. Krishna declares, Bhaktya tvananyaya shakyah. It's only through unperturbed devotion that I can be known, seen, and attained. Jayatirtha in Nyaya Sudha gives the most comprehensive definition of bhakti. Parameshwara bhaktirnama nirantara prema pravaha. Transcendental understanding. It involves a firm conviction of the Lord's infinite perfections and his freedom from all blemishes. Superior to other attachments, bhakti surpasses love for oneself, family, and possessions. Dependence on the Supreme. It recognizes the complete dependence of all things on the Lord. Continuous and unwavering flow. Bhakti is not just a fleeting emotion, but a constant stream of attachment to the Lord, unaffected by any impediments. Bhagavata then helps us understand the various means of practicing bhakti. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnoho, Smaranam Padasevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakhyam Atma Nivedanam. Quickly, let us look at some role models that practice these different types of bhakti. In the next slide, I will first show some pictures that represent one of these 9 modes. Let us try and identify the mode based on the picture. In this first picture, King Parikshita is in a conversation with Shukacharya. The adjacent picture depicts Yagnavalkya's conversation with Maitreyi. Both Parikshit Raja and Maitreyi are demonstrating Shravana mode of devotion. Here we have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Narada Muni, and Dasapanthi represented. Each of them as a prime examples of Kirtanam. Here we have 2 boys, Dhruva and Prahlada. Both of them found help contemplating on the Lord. Smaranam is the mode of devotion. What we see here is Mahalakshmi at the feet of Vishnu and Pundalika at the feet of his father, asking Vishnu to wait at the doorstep. Vishnu still continues to wait in Pandharpura for his bhaktas. The mode is Padasevanam. Krishna is being honored during the Agra Puja while conducting Rajasuya Yajna. Gajendra is offering a lotus at a time of extreme distress. Sri Vadiraja Tirtharu offering Naivedyam to the Haigrivanama Paramatma. Archanam is the mode of bhakti. Akrura, a comrade of Kamsa, reaches Vrindavana to invite Krishna. On reaching Vrindavana, he recognizes the footmarks of the Lord, descends from his chariot, and offers his prayers then and there. Also, we have Kunti, while wholeheartedly thanking the Lord, Vandanam is a mode of devotion. Here we have 2 friends of Lord, Kuchela and Arjuna. Sakhya is the mode of devotion. Bharata and Bali Chakravarti offering their own entire selves to the Lord. Atma Nivedanam. Lord Rama embracing Hanuman as he returns from Lanka, bringing news about the whereabouts of Sita. The 3 avatars of Vayu, each of them as prime examples of complete service to the Lord, and the only examples of Ekanta Bhakti, Dasya mode of Bhakti. Now let us try and tie all these things together as we approach the second pada of verse 22. We have learnt about the various modes of performance of the right actions, be it with the preponderance of karma, karma yoga, knowledge, jnana yoga, or contemplation, dhyana yoga. Krishna summarizes these means in chapter 13, verse 25 and 26. Dhyanena, Sankhena, Karma Yogena, and Shrutvanebhya. Though coming last in the order, Shrutvanebhya Upasate finds a place. Listening to the glories of the Lord is also a way of doing upasana. Krishna has indeed made it very clear that irrespective of the path one chooses, bhakti has to be the final common pathway. Without bhakti, obtaining his grace is simply out of question. Further, in chapter 12, Krishna gives us many choices to suit our abilities. Best way is to unwaveringly fix one's mind in the contemplation of the Lord. While doing all our activities, be it worshipping the Lord or that of fighting a war as Arjuna needs to. If one finds this difficult, practice helps. However, if one cannot attain this, performance of the activities as an offering unto the Lord is the way out. If this also is difficult to attain, the least one could do is disassociate from the fruits of our actions, accept our total dependence on the Lord and surrender unto Him. The picture depicts a railway station and we are on a journey towards a terminus, where our journey should end, reach our final destination. The 14 platforms are the 14 lokas, where only the top and bottom platforms are the arrival destination of journey that ends. All other platforms are just holding stations and one has to board the return trains. The 9 tracks approaching this station are the 9 modes of bhakti, and we perhaps are on one of the trains on one of these tracks. However, there is no guarantee as to which platform our train would arrive at. This is determined by our jiva swabhava, accumulated karma and prayatna, the effort that one has put in. Hope is that we do the right things in the right manner. Our train should approach the platforms above Bhuvar Loka, and in time, with His grace, if we ever get to the platform leading to the Satyaloka, we are then guaranteed a pass to His abode. For someone like Duryodhana, Andhatamas is the final destination. The Lord indeed pervades all of these, and at the same time, the entire creation is within the Lord. Yasyantasthani bhutani ena sarvamidam tatam. Here again, I go back to Jagannatha Dasaru, who has so wonderfully depicted the concept in the verse. I request Kusumji to kindly recite the verse.
Thank you, Veenaji. ಎಲ್ಲರೊಳು ತಾನಿಪ್ಪ ತನ್ನೊಳಗೆಲ್ಲರದು ಧರಿಸಿಹನು ಅಪ್ರತಿಮಲ್ಲ ಮನ್ಮಥ ಜನಕ ಜಗದಾದ್ಯಂತ ಮಧ್ಯಗಳ ಬಲ್ಲ ಬಹುಗುಣರ ಭರಿತ ದಾನವದಲ್ಲಣ ಜಗನ್ನಾಥ ವಿಠಲನು ಸೊಲ್ಲಲಾಲಿಸಿ ಸ್ತಂಭದಿಂದಲಿ ಬಂದ ಭಕುತನಿಗೆ.
He is pervading within everyone as their antaryamin, and at the same time, everything resides within him. There is no one even comparable to him, let alone being superior. He is the father of Manmatha, the epitome of beauty, the only one who knows the beginning, middle, and end of the universe. He is full of infinite auspicious attributes. He is the destroyer of Asuras. The Supreme Lord Jagannatha Vittala, on being prayed to with bhakti, manifested out of a pillar to protect his bhakta Prahlada. As I approach to my last slide, the lesson I get is that one should try to the best of their capacity to understand the grand scheme of things taught in this chapter. Listen and try to imbibe the glories and the infinitude of the Lord's attributes. Practice disassociation from the fruits of actions and seek the Lord's grace with utmost devotion. Jagannatha Dasaru aptly captures this in the first verse of Karuna Sandhi. Again, I request Kusumji to recite the verse.
Thank you, Vinaji. ಶ್ರವಣಮನಕಾನಂದವೀವುದು ಭವಜನಿತ ದುಃಖಗಳ ಕಳೆವುದು ವಿವಿಧ ಭೋಗಗಳಿಹ ಪರಂಗಳಲಿತ್ತು ಸಲಹುವುದು ಭುವನ ಪಾವನವೆನಿಪ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮೀ ಧವನ ಮಂಗಳ ಕಥೆಯ ಪರಮೋತ್ಸವದಿ ಕಿವಿಗೊಟ್ಟಾಲಿಪುದು ಭೂಸುರರು ದಿನ ದಿನದಿ.
Listening to the glories of the Lord brings joy to the mind, helps overcome all the emergent burdens of this samsara, and provides solace both in this world and after we depart from here. All devotees with discipline and regularity should, with utmost enthusiasm and celebration, imbibe in total concentration the pious description of the glories and infinite attributes of the protector of this universe, the consort of Lakshmi. We talked about the tracks, train, and station. I will hand over to Harish Ji, who in the next session will tell us about the journey per se. Thank you. Thank you, Kusumji, for recitation. And I thank Anandji for the opportunity. And thanks to our teacher, Madhusudanji.
Thank you, Vinaji, for having given me this opportunity. Thank you, Anandji, and thanks to our Guruji as well.
Back to Anandji, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sushrut, Veenaji, Kusumji. I think we have spent nearly an hour and 45 minutes. It has been a wonderful session. I think we should open this session for Q&A if anyone has any questions. Any questions?
Anandji, no question. It went really, really well. One, and Harikatamritsara recitation, really nice. One thing which I wanted to point out, and perhaps you and Srikanji already did, is the word abhyasa that you put in the beginning. I think you guys said it really appropriately. It's not so much practice as reiteration, as you said, but more than reiteration, I feel it is a habit. So once you get into a habit, that's why only this word abhyasa is used in that 6th chapter, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna manodur nigraham chalam abhyasa inatu. Abhyasa, the word he is using not as practice only or reiteration, perhaps he means it as a habit. So if it were to become a habit, then it is very easy, because abhyasa requires a little bit of willpower, a little bit of conscious thinking and so on. As you appropriately said, antakala, that is very difficult. So sort of make it into a habit is, I guess, a more appropriate and a more powerful thing for us. So then we don't need to use the will at all. It just happens.
Absolutely, well said. And it should become a power of habit. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's only then you can become totally imbibed
Yeah.
with godly thoughts, and it will automate. So what that verse particularly said is, you just can't put your phone on an AI mode and say, remind me of God at that
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
It's not going to happen that way. It has to be your sanskara, your culture, your whole life pervaded by godly thoughts. Only then, if you are lucky enough, you will probably remember the God. Should become a habit. I totally agree.
Yes, very nice. Thank you.
Anandji, can I ask a question?
Please, Prakashji. Namaskar.
Okay, namaskara. See, it's a very interesting thing. Only by abhyasa and by good thoughts, everything you said best, you laid it out very nicely, you will get the antakala smarana. Assuming this particular person is not an aproksha jnani, but he's bhakta, whatever he saw so far, he has all the qualities, he's doing abhyasa, will he get the antakala smarana, or this antakala smarana is tied only to being an aproksha jnani and then to the charamadeha, because that's what our shastra says. How? What is your thought on this? That's my thing. What are your thoughts on that?
I'll try and answer this, and I'll hand over to Srikanji. So while we discuss this, the various approaches by two different categories of the jivas. One is those who have those yogic powers. The others, those who are into bhakti. And bhakti was very well defined. What is bhakti is not just a blind faith. Veenaji went through a lot on bhakti. So my understanding is, besides aproksha jnanis, even the mundane people who dedicate their life towards a bhakti with the full awareness of the supremacy of the Lord, with the jnana, should be able to remember the Lord at the time. Yeah, that is my understanding.
So now the Anand, sorry to interrupt you, Anand. The next, the follow up to that comes is, if he's able to see if he's able to do antakala smarana, then there is no punarjanma for him.
So yes and no, because what he said is mad bhavam. Yes, liberation. There's no punarjanma for him.
Anandji, just Suresh, maybe just to add.
I want to add also. Yes, go ahead.
Me too.
Yeah. You go ahead first. I'll chip in last, no issues. Venkiji, please go ahead. Then Srikanji, please.
Yeah, Sheshuji, that's a very dangerous thought. It's kind of like saying something happens by luck, by chance, and such is not the case, because when you look at the second chapter, last shloka, Brahma Nirvanam Richati, in that the Acharya has very elaborately explained, because you first have to be a Sthita Prajna. Then only you can do the dhyana. Then only you can attain the samadhi. Then only it becomes a force of habit. And then only there is a good chance that you will be able to remember it at the end of your life, because the Acharya actually says Bhishma Pitamaha, the person who did Vishnu Sahasranama and this and that and Moksha Dharma and all of that, even he did not get the Antakala Smarana. So therefore, it is not like a get out of jail free card. So it's kind of like saying somebody runs in an Olympics, doesn't have the force of habit of training, and is somehow able to get a gold medal. For that to happen, there has to be some sort of a massive earthquake where the ground swallows everyone, and then that one person is sort of like getting a line to cross. That would be a chance, right? So we are not chance believers. So it has to be somebody who has become a Sthita Prajna, then has attained Samadhi. The Aparoksha Jnana has happened, the Aparoksha Jnana has fruitified, then he has become a Charamadehi like Parikshit Maharaja. Then he will get the correct understanding of the Lord, and then he will become Brahma Nirvana. He'll become Brahma. Otherwise, what will happen is somebody could be thinking about the Lord, but think about it imperfectly or incorrectly. And then that imperfection and incorrection will be manifest as a seed for the next Janma. Right? So I don't think you should believe in chances. That is not the idea. The Abhyasa is the force of habit that becomes strong only after Aproksha Jnana and Samadhi.
Okay, that's where my point is. We are not talking about chance at all. There is no question of chance here.
No.
It's only abhyasa. We are talking about a non-aproksha jnani, but he is doing abhyasa, and he has a fair understanding and knowledge of tattva. So he's not having mithya jnana anyway. He has done his fair diligence and he has learned. He knows God is, what is, all those things he has gone through. But for him, you should not get the Antakarana Smarana unless he's an Aparokshya Jnani. All his prarabdha is exhausted, and only at this Charanama Deha he will get. That means this Antakala Smarana is only possible only if you are an AP, Aparokshya Jnani. All his prarabdha is exhausted, and at the final Charma Deha only he will get that.
The complete knowledge of Brahma Bhava, that is what
Brahma Bhava, right?
The Brahma Bhava, which is your what is it called? Your Bimba Rupa Darshana.
Yeah, Bimba Rupa. So
that will happen only at the Charam Deha exhaustion only.
Then only Punarjanma will not happen. Then
exactly.
What is the use of Abhyasa? If it is all this is the sequence and this is the final destination. What is the Abhyasa? Because Krishna says you do Abhyasa so that you will get Antakarana Smarana. But whereas the Antakarana Smarana only happens in Charma stage.
Yeah, don't go even that far. The abhyasa that Krishna is telling, that also Krishna only has to make it happen.
Yeah,
no?
So
you again, can just say, I don't want to do abhyasa.
Yeah,
Krishna make me do abhyasa.
If you have that in you, you will do the abhyasa. So this is the quandary I am putting it.
Maybe let's.
I would like to. I have to
Can
jump in here and
can
add
I
all of.
ask a question?
Yes, this is correct.
Before that, Shrikantji, please go ahead, and then we will. He was coming a little earlier. Then we will go to Sheilaji and then to Anandji, please.
Namaskara to everybody. All of everything that has been stated is 100% correct. Here, I would like to go back to Ajamela's story. There, the objection was the same. The BBC reporter says, this guy just says Narayana in the end and he gets moksha. That's not fair. But that is not at all the case. In all these things, you got to have Hari Prasada, which is unless and until Hari decides that you are eligible, everything you do, you stand on your head and do everything, nothing will work. He has to grace you, then alone, even in the battlefield, Arjuna gets the Divya Drishti. That's all. That's how he is able to see Krishna. Otherwise, no go. You are still in the cycle and you may be higher in the cycle, but you might be a little bit Uttama Adhikari, but you are still stuck in the cycle. Hari Prasada is absolutely essential. That's all I'd like to add. Thank you to everybody.
Thanks, Shrikantji. And just on the same point, I think I'll just chip in and then Sheilaji perhaps will ask the next question. Prakashji, I think the question you are, if I'm understanding you right, you're coming from the fact that in 12th chapter, when Krishna gives options, he says either fix your mind. If not, if you can't do that, practice fixing my mind. If you can't do that, just offer your all that you do to me. At least, my dear friend, dissociate from the fruits of action. So the point being, without fixing without getting to dhyana, without getting to a state of sthita prajna, what is the abhyasa that we are doing? I think that is where the question comes. Abhyasa here perhaps is, the way I would understand is, it's not just repetition, as Venkiji just said. It is reiteration in the sense that it should become spontaneous and second nature. But then all the three acharyas, for that matter, have declared the supremacy of knowledge. The karma, if it has to go, it has to be destroyed in the fire of knowledge. That's what Krishna actually says. And if one doesn't have that knowledge, if one just does mundane, repetition of tasks without understanding anything, just learns a few verses of the Vedic mantras, has no knowledge of what it means, simply keeps repeating them, and if one has to call that as abhyasa, perhaps I don't think that anyway is going to take to Antyakala or Brahma Nirvana at any stage. Every reiteration needs to have take us to a separate plane of further experiential exploration, knowing more, understanding more. It's a virtuous cycle. I think that is what abhyasa is. The deeper we go in discovering ourselves, understanding our own nature, first and foremost, we need to understand ourselves. Then perhaps we have a chance of getting through the Jivachadika, then having an attempt at the Paramachadika. So that is how I would put abhyasa into context. Hope that's making sense. Sheilaji, you had a question. Then we could.
Yes, Sureshji, whatever you said, that's my meaning of Abhyasa as well. It has to become our second nature. That's what I understood by all the lessons. And one more thing was, I thought, because we are all human bodies, according to Prarabdha, our death is written. And Sthita Prajna, or anyone who has been having this second nature as his Abhyasa, and he can get into coma, or because we assume that none of us get it, but or Alzheimer's. But I have heard somewhere that God is so kind. This comes on the Hari Prasada, Shrikantji was telling. But still, he will take you across after the death. And one more thing I had heard about Ajamila also. Ajamila, yes, he felt in the subtle that what he heard in the subtle that all what Yamadutas and Vishnudutas were talking. But he was given more life to come back, and then he does. I think this Madhuji only mentioned, I don't remember. He goes away and does tapas and achieves the Vishnu Loka after he does tapas. That's because of whatever he had practiced before. And Hari Prasad, anyway. So
one has to
thank you.
exhaust the prarabdha karma, even if you are granted divine vision and mukti, you must exhaust that.
Yes. That's why he comes back to do the.
Yes.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Shulaji. Just to remember then, though, but as we mentioned, Krishna is impartial and he is not cruel. He's not going to do not going to give us anything more than that we deserve, nor is he going to take away anything that we deserve. He's going to give us just what we deserve based on the properties. Anandji, you were about to say something when
I was only trying to say Shrikantji first and then yourself. I think Shushrut is waiting for a question.
Yeah, sure. Shushrutji, please.
No, I was just going to say what you said is that it's like saying that getting moksha is getting the London marathon medal. So he's saying, well, if you can't run the marathon, run half marathon. If you can't run half marathon, run 10K. If you can't run 10K, at least start doing couch to 5K first. So if you don't even start couch to 5K, how can you even dream of reaching moksha? You cannot run the marathon without having some practice, and then you will get into that habit. So it's just like an analogy to say you cannot get there without the grace. There's no chance.
Very good. Excellent examples, Shushrutji. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we have part C next week. Harish Ji will take us through the rest of the verses of chapter 8, then followed by expert talk. It will be a summary of the whole chapter 8 by Dr. Pratos Ji. So we look forward to that session, and there will also be an introduction to chapter 9. And with that, we conclude this session. Suresh Ji, Omkara, please.
Thanks, Anandji. Thanks to Shushrutji, Veena-ji, yourself leading this discussion, and of course, Kusumji for wonderful recitation of the Harikathamritasara verses. So, as Anandji had said, we will conclude today's session with Om recitation. Sri Krishna Arpanamastu.